The ocean has always called to people for peace, for sport, for beauty. For Simon Nellist, it was more than a passion, it was a way of life. On an otherwise calm February afternoon in 2022, that connection ended in the most brutal way imaginable. The waves shimmered, the sky glowed golden, and a seasoned swimmer entered the water like he had done so many times before. But within minutes, the sea turned red and everything changed. Shark attack, swimmer down, Little Bay. We need emergency services, immediately. Witnesses on the cliffs and beach could do nothing but watch, frozen in horror as a 3-meter shadow surged through the shallows. The sound of panic rippled through the air, screams, running feet, the frantic tones of a 911 call. What should have been a routine swim became one of the most shocking wildlife encounters in recent Australian history. And at the center of it was a man who had dedicated his life to understanding and coexisting with the ocean. These stories are not easy to tell, but they must be told. Because behind every tragedy like this is a human being, a life of meaning, of choices, of love, of courage. If you believe that those stories matter, that silence is not a tribute but an erasure, then stay with us. This is more than a headline. This is the life and death of Simon Nellist. Simon Nellist was born in Cornwall, England, where the Atlantic is not a postcard backdrop, but a force of nature. From his earliest years, the sea was his companion. He was the sort of child who would disappear for hours along the rocky shorelines, toes bleeding from barnacles, eyes squinting through salt spray. His parents say he never needed a reason to dive into the surf, just an open sky and time to think. That deep-rooted bond with nature led him to a career of service and exploration. Simon joined the Royal Air Force, where he completed tours in Afghanistan. But the call of the sea never left him. After leaving the military, he didn't seek comfort in convention. He moved to Australia, drawn to its coastline and its promise of something freer. He became a certified diving instructor, spending hours each day in the water, guiding people into the same deep calm he had always found beneath the waves. More than anything, Simon was a teacher, not just of techniques, but of respect. Respect for the ocean, for its creatures, for its unpredictable rhythms. His friends and students alike say the same thing. He didn't just teach you to swim or dive, he helped you fall in love with the sea. His fiancée, Jessie, shared that love. The two were planning a wedding. They talked about children. They dreamed of a small boat and a big life lived by the tide. Simon wasn't content just to live near the sea. He wanted to show others how to protect it. He volunteered for marine conservation efforts, photographed coral reefs and sharks with the care of a documentarian, and often spoke out against fear-based narratives around predators like the great white. His images, sometimes ethereal and sometimes raw, spoke to a vision of the ocean not as a danger, but as a world deserving reverence. Wednesday, February 16th, was a beautiful summer day in Sydney. Little Bay, tucked away between cliffs in the city's southeast, was calm and unusually clear. It had long been one of Simon's favorite swim spots, a place with gentle waves, a relatively sheltered cove, and an active community of open water swimmers. He was training for the Malabar Magic Ocean Swim, a charity event supporting children with disabilities, and had swum that stretch of coast many times before. Locals recognized him. He was a regular presence in the water, always courteous, often smiling, and quick to lend advice to nervous newcomers. On that day around 4:30 p.m., he entered the water just like always, moving steadily, confidently toward the headland. Witnesses say the sea was calm until it wasn't. A woman walking her dog on the cliffs first noticed the violent splash. She thought for a moment it might be dolphins playing. Then she saw the fin, then the blood. A massive great white, likely driven closer to shore by warm currents or a hunt, breached beneath Simon, pulling him under with terrifying speed. Some screamed, some filmed, others ran for help. It was the first fatal shark attack in Sydney in nearly 60 years. By the time emergency services arrived, there was nothing they could do. What they found was chaos. People in tears, others still scanning the horizon, hoping for some impossible reversal. And beneath that panic was an undercurrent of disbelief. How could this happen to someone who respected the ocean so deeply? Someone who knew the risks and still chose every day to step into that water. Within hours, Simon's name was on the news. First in Australia, then back home in the UK. The headlines ran with grim consistency. British man killed in Sydney shark attack. Former RAF serviceman mauled by great white. But beneath the viral buzz and clickbait thumbnails was a community in mourning. Friends remembered his calm voice, his endless patience, his habit of collecting beach litter even in full diving gear. Former students posted images of dives they'd shared, writing about how Simon had helped them overcome fear or grief or trauma. Jessie, his fiancée, released a short, heartbroken message. "He was the love of my life," she said. "He made everyone better just by being around." The Malabar Magic Ocean Swim was canceled, and memorials appeared along the cliffs of Little Bay. Flowers, surfboards, handwritten notes tucked into rocks. Local authorities closed several beaches and launched a massive drone and boat patrol. No shark was found, none needed to be. The damage was done. Marine experts reminded the public that shark attacks are incredibly rare, but that did little to calm the fear. Social media exploded with panic, speculation, and anger. Some called for culling. Others pushed back, citing Simon's own views on marine life. He would not have wanted that, they said. He would have seen it for what it was, a tragic encounter in a shared space neither human nor animal can fully control. Simon's death reignited an international conversation, not just about sharks, but about the limits of coexistence. How much risk are we willing to accept in the name of connection? How do we honor those who step into the wild with open eyes and open hearts? He had once written in a conservation post, "We can't love the sea only when it behaves. It's not here for our safety, it's here for its own reasons." That sentence was shared thousands of times after his death. In it, people found the core of who he was, not reckless, not naive, but intentional. He swam with sharks not to prove something, but because he believed understanding reduced fear. In Cornwall, a surf contest was held in his name. In Sydney, local divers organized a cleanup dive in his honor, removing over 200 pounds of plastic waste from the seafloor. His images were displayed at an environmental awareness exhibit. His name became a touchstone in discussions about ocean safety, not as a cautionary tale, but as a call for thoughtful respect. Jessie continued his advocacy. She helped launch a marine education scholarship in his name. "He didn't die because he was careless," she said. "He died doing what he loved. That doesn't make it easier, but it means it mattered." What we lost in Simon Nellist wasn't just a man, it was a worldview, one that saw beauty in risk, one that believed nature wasn't something to be dominated or feared, but something to be embraced on its own terms. It's easy to categorize stories like Simon's as tragedy, and they are, but they're also part of something more enduring. Every swimmer who hesitates before entering the sea now carries a piece of Simon's memory. Every diver who chooses to educate rather than exploit, every child who learns to snorkel and is taught to respect the fish rather than chase them. All of that is legacy, not just in policy or prevention, but in perspective. In the end, the ocean does not offer guarantees, it offers mystery, and Simon Nellist accepted that truth every time he stepped into the water. He didn't ask for safety, He asked for understanding, and in return, he gave the world a story full of awe, full of caution, and full of love. If Simon's story moved you, let it move you to action, not just in grief, but in purpose. Support those who protect the ocean. Learn more about how to swim and dive safely and ethically. Talk about risk in real terms, not just headlines. Tell stories that make space for both wonder and respect. Because some lives are bigger than a moment, and some losses are louder than silence. Thank you for remembering Simon Nellist.